From Mamma Mia, welcome to The Spill's Watch Party, where we unpack the biggest shows that the entire world is talking about. My name is Minnie Warren. I'm the executive producer of Mamma Mia's entertainment podcast, The Spill, as well as this podcast, Watch Party. And today we are talking about one of my absolute favorite shows of all time, Emily in Paris. And I'm joined by two fellow superfans who love Emily as much as I do.
I'm Tina Burke. I'm Mamma Mia's pop culture and social editor. I am obsessed with all things entertainment and Hollywood, and I love a girl called Emily Cooper and anything made by Darren Star, so I'm very excited to be here.
And I'm Chelsea Hoy, Mamma Mia's entertainment producer, and like Tina, I am a fiend for anything pop culture related, but I'm also a fashion girly and I'm a frequent co-host on the Nothing to Wear podcast, and Emily in Paris is really my two worlds colliding, so it's one of my favorite shows.
And we've all just spent the last few days watching Emily in Paris season 5. Very exciting. And in this episode, we are going to be covering everything that happens in the first 4 episodes. So there will be spoilers if you haven't watched the first 4, but we won't go beyond that. So you're totally safe if you're only up to Ep 4. So we're going to dive into everything from Emily's Italian adventure and how really different it feels to her OG Paris life, as well as some very controversial relationships that are definitely crossing lines this season. So we sort of start the season off seeing her in Rome. She's starting her life there. She's trying to get Agent Scratcho's Italian leg off the ground. And one thing that really stood out to me is that in season 1, she's obviously living that expat life as an American in Paris. And we see all these cultural comparisons drawn between American culture and French culture. And now we sort of have this third element into the mix. So it's the Italians v. the French v. Americans. Her French colleagues who come over have a lot to say about the Italians. Did that really stand out to you guys in terms of, I felt this real rivalry between the French and the Italians in these first few episodes?
I mean, I was expecting it going in, considering there was like geopolitical discourse about like Emily in Paris moving to Rome. It was a very big deal, but yeah, there was definitely like a vibe shift. Because where in Paris, everything was like that little bit more like chic and elevated and exclusionary. In Italy, it had its own thing going on.
I also think the kind of fish out of water and like cultural clash is part of the reason we love the show. And it's like a real pillar of the show. And a lot of the humor and the conflict that we see really derives from that, Emily's culture clash in Paris. And I think we needed a new chapter, a new place, a new experience. And that was Rome.
I agree. I think it really took it back to that season 1 vibe in that way of like everything's new. She doesn't know anything. She knows, I mean, not that she knows much French, but she knows absolutely no Italian. So it really reminded me of the lens through which we saw France in season 1. Yeah. And there were just a bunch of times where that came up and it was really stark in terms of how the French view Italians in the workplace. And one of the first times was when Emily was with Marcello's family and she's trying to really push discussing business ideas because obviously they've acquired the Muratori account, and she's in the kitchen. Marcello's mum is making risotto and she just goes, "We don't discuss business at dinner." And it's a full put down of like, and I think that's really evident in terms of how different Americans are to Europeans, and something that I think Emily has also encountered in France because they just don't mix business and pleasure as much as Americans do in that kind of setting.
Yeah. And it's like she kind of keeps learning these lessons over the time that she's in Italy. And it's like she just spent all that time learning how to do it in Paris. And now they're like, here's a new challenge. She learns all of these things like you don't discuss at dinner. Yes can mean no. Like she kind of has that moment of realization where she's like, I'm not working in Rome. Like I've lost my touch. I don't know what I'm doing. And it's because she doesn't know how business works here. She's not used to it.
But she should honestly read some expat guides because I looked this up and it was telling me all these things. It was like, so, you know, when you're doing business in Italy, it's good to stay on non-commercial topics in an eating setting. And I was like, Emily, just read the guides.
Like non-commercial topics in marketing or just while you're eating?
Well, I think when it's your boyfriend's mum, you could.
I think it's particularly hard for Emily though because we know notoriously she mixes business and pleasure. So how do you separate the two?
And she's been like waiting for this meeting for ages, and suddenly they have the meeting and it's like, actually, you can't talk about the meeting now because we're serving food. Sorry.
We're gonna eat.
And we ruined your shoes.
Yeah, that truffle hunting thing was ridiculous.
Red flag.
What you mentioned there about how Emily has gotten used to the fact that Italians start things off with a yes and it's a little bit non-committal. I thought that scene was really interesting when she's unpacking that with her French colleagues and they're like, oh, in France, we start a conversation with a no because then you can only like, you're not committed to anything. Yeah. Whereas in Italy, they start everything with C or yes in a business setting. And I was reading up a little bit on that. And apparently that is the case, that it's a very non-committal yes in a business sense. It's sort of an umbrella yes, and we'll see where we go from here.
Yeah, it's interesting how across cultures there are those little nuances that you really would only know once you've lived there and understand the context. So it reminds me of like in Australia when we say like yeah, nah.
Yeah.
And nah, yeah. We all know what that means.
Yeah.
But I can imagine for a foreigner, you would have no idea what those little intricacies are.
Yeah, well, when I moved here from Singapore almost 10 years ago, I was very confused by the yeah, nah, nah, yeah culture. And I was just told the second one is the
Is
one.
the one you pay attention
That's
to.
the one you go with.
Yeah, nah is a no. Nah, yeah is a yes.
Yeah, it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
That's good advice, the second one you pay attention to.
Yeah.
Emily needed something like that, you're right. She needed like a little guidebook.
Yeah,
or
yeah,
She's
something.
a canny friend.
Business for Americans in Italy. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought another thing that was interesting is we see Princess Jane, the new character who is...
What an addition.
I know. Sylvie's friend who
Yes.
is married into royalty, lives in Rome.
Yeah. Broke.
Has to go on TikTok now to get money.
Yes. Yeah. And there was an interesting scene where like she met Sylvie and Sylvie's little affair man, and he was like pretended to the crown. So it's like the man that she married wasn't even considered like really royal because like he's someone who had claimed he was but didn't have like a current claim to the title.
Yep.
So it's like that's why they're broke and living in a castle that they rent out as an Airbnb. But that was played by Minnie Driver, obviously, and she was so much fun in the role.
She is a heap of fun. I guess the same way some men lie about their heights, some lie about their royal status.
Some lie about their royal status.
hoodwinked.
Yes, she was hoodwinked. But she added so much to the Italian journey, especially for their careers this season with the booking and the weird... The fee is what killed me every time that she offered to do something for them.
Yeah.
She's like, I can set you up with Fendi for a fee.
I guess that is maybe how consulting works. I don't know, but I don't know how much she was bringing to the company. She also said something interesting about her time in Italy. She said, no one spoke to me in 3 years and I'm royalty. And I did read a little bit about how social life in Rome, it does seem on the surface very friendly. And, you know, if you're in a bar or a cafe, people do tend to talk to you. But I was having a little read on like expat experiences in Rome. And it is apparently quite difficult to break into the social fabric. It has that almost small towny feel, but in a big city where once you're not in the fold and you come in as a foreigner, it's quite difficult to work your way in and almost impossible, some people have said, to actually break into a fold that isn't just other expats. So I thought her saying that was a little bit of a reflection on that.
That's so interesting because Emily kind of... Obviously, when she moved to Paris, we saw her trying to establish all kinds of connections, but she wasn't trying to in Rome with the exception of business. So, like, we only saw it through the work lens. She wasn't trying to make friends because she has her friends and she just shipped them over to Rome with her.
I was about to say that.
Like, she didn't
every
need to
weekend.
She had a
life over.
boyfriend. Like, she was fine.
Yeah.
She shipped her whole company over with her. So, like, the only way we were able to explore that dynamic was through her career. So it was really interesting that our princess, played by Minnie Driver, was offering that lens of, like, it's really exclusive. You need someone on the inside to help you. That would be so stressful. I felt like I was at Agent's Grotto. Like, I felt like I was there trying to start it myself. I was really stressed.
I know. I was like, guys, there wasn't a lot of planning in this whole move. You just sort of got an office. That's
Yeah,
fine. Had
funny
no
as
plans.
well, like them moving everything over and no one is left in the Paris branch.
Who's there?
What is
And
this business planning?
they're just on Zoom.
Yeah, wild.
I know, especially for someone like Sylvie, who is so like, I know that she's a bit like, I'm going for a smoke in the middle of the day. It's the French way. But she's also like so business minded and has such a stake and a love in her own business. It was just so strange to see her be like, and now I'm in Rome and I guess no one's in Paris other than Genevieve.
Yeah.
Well, she was very interested in staying in Rome due to her Italian lover, but we can get to that
Yes.
later. Giancarlo. I thought one other thing that was interesting was Marcello at the party in the mansion where he decides to pretty much flirt with every ex he's ever had, it seems, in these few episodes in front of his new girlfriend. And he explained that away as, that's how Italians talk. We're just very expressive. We use our hands a lot, which obviously Italians are renowned worldwide for being very expressive, very passionate when they're speaking. I still don't think you need to be quite that passionate when you're speaking to your ex-girlfriends, but what do you guys think?
I think the fact that we're talking about multiple ex-girlfriends is like the real red flag. I can like understand in some cultures there's like a physicality where there's like an unspoken language, Italian culture being one of those where like, yeah, they are very expressive, it's very physical. But Emily in a short period, in a week, having to encounter 2 exes is bizarre. That is a red flag.
I don't know. That man just gave me the ick all season long. Like in these episodes, he was just, I don't know, he didn't seem to understand much of like what she was doing with him. Like as in like they go truffle hunting, he doesn't warn her about the shoes. They go hang out with all his exes. He doesn't say anything till she feels noticeably uncomfortable and tries to leave. Like he just was giving me the ick in not understanding like that he was in a relationship with somebody.
Yeah.
Is kind of the vibe of that whole castle scene.
Also, his apology didn't really land because he was like, I'll
No.
pick you up tomorrow, don't worry. And then she's like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I projected, I overreacted. I'm like, nah, he was like really flirting with his exes in front of you. I think
Yeah.
you're allowed a little, waiver
and that's
there.
a current theme that we picked up on that as being something she did a bit this season. And I wonder what the reasoning was, because it felt strange that she apologized in that instance. It's like, I don't really think you did anything wrong. But it's like they're trying to make her character like that bit more like
likable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the brands that they acquire during their time in Italy is called Intimacy. It's a lingerie brand, and this sparks a whole thing for Emily because she's trying to figure out how to sell lingerie. Agent Scratto's whole thing is, we want to prove the French can sell sex better than the Italians. This is such a funny little arc because Emily always sort of struggles with those things that are more on the sexy side to deal with intimacy. And I feel like it's a real commentary from the Europeans that, Americans are a little bit more reserved because Europe's just known for being a bit more out there and like embracing all of that kind of stuff. And she definitely gets that feedback from Luke and Julianne that they obviously think she's a bit of a quote-unquote prude. We saw last season when Gabrielle wanted to have sex on the roof and she had a bit of a freak out. She was like, I just want to be in a bed. So yeah, we really see Emily kind of struggle with coming up with the tagline there, whether, to go full out or be a little bit more reserved in how she markets it. What did you guys think of her approach to selling intimacy?
Yeah, I think obviously she was called out for having intimacy issues by her coworkers and has been called a prude and everything. So I think she tried to go the opposite direction and like really channeled like everything she's learned in France about being sexy. And she obviously pitched something that just wasn't seen as right for the actual Italian audience versus like what she thought they would want. Like she wanted to be like, it's like better than naked, like as in the sexiest you can look is wearing lingerie. And like the princess was in the meeting with her and she's like, that's just a bit confusing, sweetie. Like no one understands that. And she kind of learned that actually like Italians are, well, according to Intimacy, Italians are more interested in like the connection and the meaning. So she had to go away and find that again. So I feel like she's learned a lot about her, Italian culture in her very short time in Rome.
Now, while we're on the topic of sort of clothes and garments and that kind of area, Chelsea, you're a real fashion girly, and the fashion this season has been a little bit different. Obviously, she's in a different place. The setting is different. A lot of it's giving Audrey Hepburn, Roman holiday callbacks. What can you tell us about her Roman edition of fashion?
I mean, with a show like this where the fashion is almost like a character in itself, so pivotal to the show, every season I think we've seen a bit of an evolution. This season, yes, we lean very heavily into Italian fashion, and the costume designer Marilyn Fitoussi has said that they're leaning into like glamorous black and white Italian movies. They've taken a lot of inspo from like old Hollywood stars, so like Sophia Loren, Silvana Mangano, Claudia Cardinelli, and like all these icons who have like real style and a lot of personality. We see Emily, even all the promotional pics and in the first few episodes in Rome, in a lot of polka dots, which feels very, very Italian. And even in the press tour outfits, we know that especially Lily Collins, being like the fashion icon that she is, always slays a red carpet, but they recently did like a photo call in Venice. So all three ladies were wearing Italian designers, Philippine Leroy Bellew in Ferragamo, Lily Collins in Schiaparelli. She loves that brand. It's an Italian-founded French haute couture house. Ashley Park and Antonio Grimaldi, they're really leaning into Italian fashion brands this season, both in the show and in real life. And yeah, with shows like this, I find it always really interesting that the fashion really reflects where Emily is, what state of mind she's in, where she is, and the culture she's kind of trying to assimilate into.
Did you have a favorite look of the first few episodes?
Let me see. Oh, when they go to the Fendi shop, she's wearing this like jumpsuit.
Yeah,
Ooh,
it's gorgeous. It's like
stunning.
silky and it's like geometric tiles or like something's going on. It's like a kind of like scarf print.
Yes. There's a real like interesting pattern on it. It's very Italian inspired.
Yeah. And she's so depressed, but she looks so good.
It lifts her.
Yeah, she's like sitting there like she's like, I haven't slept, and she's got big sunglasses on and she's like, I think my boyfriend's going to break up with me. But no, he's taking you to buy a Fendi bag and you look great.
That might be the only moment in the first few episodes where I'm like, okay, Marcello, like, okay.
All right, you get a pass.
He redeemed himself with that one.
Yeah.
So obviously we've only seen up till episode 4, and at the end of episode 4, it's revealed that they're going back to Paris. Do you think that is something that will be reflected in the fashion?
100%. The costume designers have been very open about the fact that where Emily is reflects in what she wears. And this season, I'm almost 100% sure we're going to go back to kind of understated, a little bit more timeless. Season 1 and 2, we saw so many bold colors. We saw a lot of bucket hats, random prints. I think episode 1, when she shows up at Agence Gâteau, she's literally wearing like a Paris Eiffel Tower printed shirt. It's really bold. It's a little bit obnoxious. And as the seasons have progressed and she's become more Parisian, more French, her style has reflected that and become a little bit more understated, a little bit more luxurious.
I guess we have seen growth from Emily because she didn't show up in a t-shirt with the Colosseum on it or something in her first day
That's
in Rome.
progress.
Okay, so we absolutely have to talk about the relationship that we saw teased in the trailer and that we've now seen come to fruition. And I don't know how to feel about it, which is Mindy and Alfie. Chelsea, what can you tell us about what we've seen so far?
So we saw this coming. It was in the trailer. Emily's off to Rome, which leaves Mindy and Alfie in Paris alone, meeting up as friends. They get dinner. Sparks start flying. They're starting to flirt. It's kind of entering that territory of maybe something romantic. And it freaks Mindy out a little bit. She's like, okay, like, what is this? She goes off to Rome to visit Emily, and she's kind of texting with Alfie. And conveniently, Alfie also ends up in Rome for work, as it is in this show. And she gets recruited for this strange Italian dance competition show, and she needs help rehearsing. So why not call Alfie? They have a little...
He's in the same hotel.
He
It's
is
convenient.
staying at the same hotel.
And weirdly, his mother apparently made him take ballroom dancing lessons growing up. So that
Also
worked out
convenient.
well.
They have a little dance. Things are kind of heating up. They share a kiss. And then things kind of snowball from there, where they're kind of intimate with each other, but they're hiding this from Emily the entire time.
And this is a real look at girl code, isn't it? And whether or not Mindy has crossed a line here, because I don't know about you guys, but I think she was 100% crossed a line. I know she did initially in one of the first episodes of the season try and sort of float with Emily like, oh, you don't still have feelings for Alfie, do you? And Emily was like, nah, but that's a little bit different. You're not giving context for why you're asking that question. If I suddenly asked one of you guys, oh, do you still have feelings for an ex? You'd probably be like, no. And they'd be like, well, I'm in love with him. Or I'm not in love, but I'm dating him. You may feel a little bit differently.
Yeah.
I did a bit of a deep dive into girl code because I wanted to sort of clarify for myself before we weigh in on whether or not she did break girl code, what exactly girl code is. And what I found was that psychologists talk about unspoken social contracts, rules that we don't write down, but we expect people close to us to honor. And girl code is basically that. A lot of it's rooted in attachment theory because a lot of people see close female friendships as sort of emotional safe havens in the chaos of life. And one thing I think that really defines whether or not you have broken girl code is what level of friendship you are at with that person. And with Mindy and Emily, she is her ride or die in Paris. This is not a casual friend. This is someone she met on a park bench but turned into a lifelong bestie. They live together. She's been there through the chaos, the heartbreak, the career highs and lows. I think the level of friendship really matters here, which is why I strongly feel like she has crossed a line. Where do you guys sit with that?
Yeah, she crossed a line. I think starting a relationship with Alfie is one thing, but the complete lack of communication and the lying is where you get me. Do I think that you could date a friend's ex? I wouldn't do it, but I think it depends on how that friend feels about that relationship at that time and whether they care or not. And Mindy never really had that conversation with Emily, and they proceed to lie for several episodes. Which I think is the problem.
And on that Argentine tango, because I was a really big fan of that sort of arc, seeing Mindy have to learn this dance, I had a bit of a rogue thought as to whether it's a metaphor, stay with me here, them doing the Argentine tango in private, it's this sort of sexy secret. When he picks her up, it works so well. And then when that's taken public on the dance competition stage, she falls flat on her face. Is that a metaphor for when this relationship comes to light, Emily sees it?
Oh.
Yeah, and everyone finds out that it's going to be an absolute flop and not take off. And they maybe did quite a literal metaphor, which they like to do in Emily in Paris, of her literally crashing and falling on her face.
Let's hope.
Maybe.
Took it to a different place.
I like that. Why not?
I don't know if it's a controversial opinion because famously last episode, I was all for this. I don't care. I love mixing up the different couples and seeing what happens. And I also love those two characters individually.
Yeah.
I personally wasn't really a fan of the chemistry. I felt the
Yeah.
pacing maybe was wrong. we didn't have any build up. From the first episode, them having dinner and the sparks flying didn't feel organic to me. Even the tango, I felt a little bit
I had to
cringe.
close my eyes.
Yeah.
I was cringing so bad.
Which is, I'm shocked because these two, I love these two actors. I like these two characters. So you would think that putting them together would make sense. And I think that's probably what the producers were thinking when they did it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I was all for this and I was really excited about it. But the fact that it feels kind of rushed into, like, I think we could have done that first episode where they go to dinner and she starts to realize that there's a bit of a spark or something there. I think we needed like a whole season's worth of like
Build up.
tension or pining or build up and actual conversations with Emily, or even just like a little bit more of an attempt to discuss it with Emily or to figure it out before diving headfirst into like scandal and like girl code and like friendship issues. I just really didn't want this for these girls at this big age. And also because we just did this, right? That's what we said last episode. Like we just spent so long doing the Gabrielle, Cammy, Emily thing. I didn't want her to have another female friendship that was impacted by this kind of behavior. It just seems out of character for Mindy as well. Like Alfie, who knows? He's just a scallywag little guy. Who knows what he's going to do?
He's British.
Like, he's British. But like, you know, Mindy and Emily, like you said, best friends. I wouldn't have expected this. I know I just literally a second ago said that like, oh, it just kind of happened and they weren't intending it, but it's still like there's a level of premeditation there if you're putting yourself in those spaces with this dude who you have a crush on, you know?
Yeah.
As a viewer, I think with chemistry, it is also hard to get into it when you've already seen him develop that arc with someone else who's a main character. I drew a comparison to Gossip Girl because I used to find it really difficult how everyone would just swap within the friendship circle. The Dan, Nate, Serena, Blair of it all really got to me. And I think
we loved that.
Dina and I are sitting here like, really?
But I do think there was more time given to it on that show.
That's the thing. There's so much emotional residue there with Alfie and Emily. I don't even feel like there was proper closure. She had tears in her eyes when she found out he had a new girlfriend towards the end of last season. So I just don't think there was enough time. And much like Gossip Girl, this show, no one dates outside the circle. Everyone has to just couple swap within the circle.
It's a very incestuous friendship group.
You're in Europe. There's other men. Get on Hinge, Emily and Mindy and everyone.
I think why the time thing is important when it comes to Gossip Girl. I also think all those pairings, when you really think about it, they had chemistry.
And they had established dynamics too.
Yeah. Even Dan and Blair, which really came out of left field.
I hate that storyline.
I love it. Aligned. They had common interests, even though it wasn't really explored earlier on. Once they were put together, it kind of made sense. I wasn't necessarily rooting for them to be together in the end, but I think that little chapter was a lot of fun. I enjoyed watching them, and you really felt the chemistry between these two people, which personally is what I feel is lacking between Mindy and Alfie.
Okay, so Emily has been on quite the journey in these first 4 episodes. A lot has happened, and I think we've seen a lot of character development and her go through different things. She seems like a different Emily to the flippant, carefree Emily of the past who run through the world in quite a clueless fashion. Chels, what do you think about Emily's arc this season so far?
They really humanize Emily this season. I think we finally get some insight into why she is the way she is. She's like a perfectionist. She's very ambitious. She has like an inability to really switch off from work. And she talks a little bit about her family and her parents feeling like good grades and a good job is really what defines being successful and really informs her sense of self. And I think this is really the first time we've gotten a glimpse into her life, really outside of Paris and her new experiences and why she is the way she is. There's one scene where Luke really calls out Emily for having intimacy issues. He talks about how like her crazy bold outfits are a way for her to avoid being vulnerable, which I think is true. And one of the first times we've seen someone kind of call her out for that. And as the scenes have gone on, the show really has to evolve. We first saw a little bit of that last season when, after she broke up with Gabrielle, she goes back to Paris, bumps into Alfie. She's very emotionally vulnerable in that scene. He mentions his new girlfriend who he's about to meet, and she really breaks down crying. And I remember watching that scene feeling like that was one of the first moments where we really saw Emily's like true emotions and her having like a really vulnerable moment. And for me personally, I found it a little bit difficult to connect to Emily in the earlier seasons, maybe because she is so shiny and polished and at a distance, and we never really see her sweat. Yeah, she's just always got it together. Even when she's stressed, it's more like a comedic, humorous moment than it is something where you're really trying to feel for her.
Yeah.
And now that they've established this like high concept premise, I think now they're trying to really deepen the relationship the audience has with this character, because I do foresee having many more seasons where the stakes are just a little bit higher now.
It is really interesting what you said as well about her big, bold outfits being a bit of a front for not showing her real self and that wall between her and the outside world. And for me, that really draws a parallel to the first episode in Nobody Wants This, where Joanne goes into a party and that is something that Noah says to her, like, you have this big fur coat and it's sort of like you want to walk in and sort of have everyone's eyes be on you, but at the same time, that's not your real self. It's a front for the public facing version of you. We also did Nobody Wants This on Watch Party if you guys want to listen, so go back and listen to that. But I think Emily's similar in that way, where it is this huge front and it's this designer, big, bold energy that she puts out there that maybe isn't her real self.
Yeah.
Another notable difference for Emily this season is a missing someone who likes to pop up pretty often throughout the rest of the seasons, but that we haven't seen that much so far in the first 4 episodes, and that is one Chef Gabrielle. What do you think about that, Tina?
One, he looks so good. Love his haircut. Thank you so much to whoever made him do that. Love Gabrielle, but yes, so this season he does sort of follow Emily to Rome as we thought he might. And it's actually a really great introductory shot. Like, she's leaving her office with Marcello and then he's like behind a fountain.
I burst
like,
out laughing at that
he's
scene.
giving Joe Goldberg. Like, the framing of the shot, I was like, that's nice, they're kissing. Ah! Who is this? What are you doing here? There's just like a man there. Why would he be there? But like, it was a beautiful shot. It showed him, it showed all the spectrum of human emotion across his face of like seeing her feeling heartbroken that she's with someone. But this time he makes the decision not to engage and not to, you know, go after her and make his presence known and interrupt her happiness, which is something that we spoke about in our first episode about how some people feel about Gabrielle, is that he's constantly showing up and like ruining life for Emily. It's not how I feel about him, but I understand the critiques. What I did love was that Sylvie was the one who saw him and like took him out to lunch and like reinvigorated his love of food. So that was nice. Little food montage. We love that. He's going to take that back with him to Paris. But more than that, she kind of spoke to him about Emily and Marcello. And I think it was really lovely. She was like, she's got life to live. Like, they had this really great conversation about like, you know, I know that you love Emily, but like, she has to get out there. She has to date. She has to live a life. And then she's maybe going to be the right girl for you. And we'll see how that pans out. And he actually took that advice on board and like went away. Very much so, because we just didn't hear from him after that. And he's been a silent character this season. But I do feel to an extent that that is about making sure that the audience has time to fall in love with him again and to like miss him. It's that whole thing, absence makes the heart grow fonder. They're taking him away from us so that we have the time to see him and also see him grow up, right? That's another critique that there's been of him, is that his behaviour has been quite immature. Him knowing when to walk away, knowing when not to bother her or chase after her when she's happy and not destroy her happiness. It shows growth on his part. And now it gives us a chance to miss him.
Mm-hmm. As a viewer, I did feel that need to miss him. He's too around in all the other seasons. Like,
some might say he's too visible.
Too present, but not emotionally.
I kind of hope moving forward as well in the later episodes, I hope he's scarce, first of all, so that we have time to miss him.
Yeah.
But I hope we see him do his own thing.
Yeah.
Up until this point, Gabrielle has sort of been just existing in the realm of that love triangle.
Yeah.
Just like a plot point, in my opinion, where he's just around in order to facilitate the romance in the show, where I feel like we would love him more if we see him do his own thing, have a little bit of growth, figure himself out before him and Emily kind of meet again and come back together.
Yeah, so true. Because especially like Emily's got her career. Mindy's always singing. Like, everyone's always doing something. We're really on people's careers. And I know that he had his whole Michelin star ordeal, but he's also just been like so unhappy with his restaurant. So like, it'd be nice to see a bit of change there.
Great.
And at the end of episode 4, we basically see that Emily's career arc in Rome has somewhat imploded. She's done this ad campaign for Muratori, which has led to Solitano being this sweet little local town, now becoming a tourist hotspot. Everyone's mad at her. They've dropped Agents Gratto as their PR representative, and basically it's all blown up. Her chance at running the Italian office is dashed. We have this very cute line from Sylvie being like, I need my Emily in Paris at the end. I mean, I have convoluted feelings about putting the title of a show into a line of dialogue in the script, but I see it for Emily in Paris. I understand why they did it. I don't know if you guys agree with this, but from my perspective as a viewer, I do think many people are going to think this Rome chapter was too condensed. We've moved the whole show to Rome, new career. It's meant to be this New opportunity that Darren Star kind of talked about a lot for Emily as this big character development arc in season 5, and it's now already over 4 episodes in. For me, Rome had to be a longer chapter. We needed to see her make a local friend. We needed to see her explore the city a little bit more. And for me, this was too rushed. What did you guys think about that?
I do think it was rushed. I was left feeling a little bit like, what was this for? Who was this for? I liked the concept of her going to Rome. I liked them doing something different. It introduced us to other people and other places, but also not really other people. It was just the entire team from Rome and a few marketing people who they met with who weren't very nice. Shout out to the lady from Fendi. But I do think that this is a problem of our modern times and our short seasons, right? Like this is a 10-episode season, and I know the episodes are a little bit longer, but often shows used to be like 18, 20 episodes. That's what Sex and the City was for the most part, with the exception of season 5. So like when you do lessen the amount of episodes, you lessen the amount of time that you have to play with a storyline. And I also think they were probably highly aware of the fact that this is Emily in Paris and people like Paris and like the dynamic. And there was only so long that they could get away with like, Alfie, we need you in Rome for this legal contract. Mindy, please come sing in Rome. And maybe they didn't want to like split cities, but I actually almost think that would have been better if we had a bit of like coverage of what was going on in Paris and coverage of what was going on in Rome, rather than trying to shove it all into just 4 episodes in Italy. What do you think?
I agree it went very quickly, but I couldn't be happier that we're going back to Paris. The little Marcello chapter, I'm not a fan of him, obviously.
Yeah.
And the feeling I got when they were in Rome was that it was very temporary. Like you were saying, Tina, how we're not really establishing her with any new important characters in Rome. So it never felt like this was going to be home base or somewhere that she was going to spend a lot of her time. So for me, it felt like short and sweet. I'm happy with that. Back to Paris, back to business, you know?
I also love like just like the vibe of Paris, obviously. That's the whole reason we kind of fell in love with this show. But I also just love like when, yes, she's got romantic drama or work drama, but I love the consistency of when she is in Paris, and it just gets to feel like an office or friendship or romantic drama, and not also like, and now I'm in a new place and this is happening and Marcello's here. Ugh, like, you know, I just don't want him there, first of all. And second of all, I just want to be back in Paris. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
As a viewer, it kind of feels like we're coming home.
I was about to say that, yeah.
Maybe that was also part of it. Maybe they were like, okay, everyone's gotten too used to Paris. We need to get them back in love with it.
Yeah, I felt unsettled with her in Rome, and I was like, I just want her to go get a croissant. Not that she really gets that many croissants, but I wanted to be able to.
Exactly.
Yeah. It felt like almost like a device for us to feel like, yep, she's much more Parisian now. She's like, she's assimilated into life in Paris. She has her friendship group there. She's really got a life there, and making us feel like this is the journey she's been on from season 1 now in season 5. She's home, you know?
Do you guys have any thoughts on where things may go now that she's back in Paris?
I don't want to see Marcello again, but I'm sure I will.
He'll pop up. He'll find
be
a way.
back. I'd really love to see Mindy and Alfie get together in a healthy way. I don't think that that's going to happen either. I'd like to see some healthy friendship communication, but I don't think we'll get that. What I do think we'll get is this consistency of Gabrielle being out of our lives, and I do love that. Only for his growth. We know I'm Team Gabrielle.
I agree. I think we won't see a lot of Gabrielle, which I love. I'm already starting to miss him a little bit, you know, and I famously despise that man.
It's worked on you, the device.
It's worked, you know, something's working. I believe we're going to see a bit of back and forth with Alfie and Minnie. There was inevitably going to be a fallout between her and Emily, which will be huge. And I don't know that I love that, because Mindy and Emily have really been this like grounding force in the show and a real like safe haven where, while there's all this chaos going around, work chaos with boyfriends, new men, her and Mindy have always been good, you know. But I do think we're going to see some sort of a friendship fallout, and hopefully we see Mindy and Alfie break up. That's my take. I don't love them together. So hopefully by the end of the season they're not together.
It was probably needed for Mindy and Emily to have this crossroads in their friendship, because I feel like they haven't had a huge testing point as of yet. My hope is that Emily has a big next career step, because I was really feeling from her in these first 4 episodes that she's ready for that next step. She was so excited to run the Roman office without Sylvie hovering over her and without being monitored and supervised. And it just felt like this push and pull. She was really ready for that step, but it wasn't being given to her next. So my hope for her is that something big happens in her career. She gets a little bit more independence. I don't know if that will be within Agents Grotto or she'll end up starting her own thing. I don't know what the working visa situation is like over there, but that is my wish for Emily Cooper.
And I'm sure Mindy will sing again.
Undoubtedly.